everyone. I'm just waiting a moment for this to start, but I think it has begun. Welcome to another video on the Akashic Records. So I am live here today with one of my sisters and dear friends, Jennifer Smallwood, and we're going to be having a conversation right now with you. And if you have questions, if you're live, feel free to chime in, or even later chime in with questions in the comments, and we'll both be watching this for any questions or comments later. But we're talking today about the Akashic Records and why we work in the Akashic Records, why we teach people to utilize and read the Akashic Records, and in particular, how Jennifer, who's a psychotherapist, has really found her way into this really beautiful blend of psychotherapy, which she's done for for decades, and Akashic Records, not only reading, but wisdom. So Jennifer Smallwood is a Gestalt therapist, an EMDR UK consultant, a clinical supervisor and tutor, and she has a very successful practice based in the lovely Sheffield, England, which I'm going to get to one of these days within the next year, is my intention. You can see her website at akashicrecordsuk.org. And she's also co-founder and director of Integration Psychotherapy Services, CIC, which is a nonprofit organization providing clinical experience for trainee and graduate therapists in the UK, with clients who want reduced cost therapy. Her current passion now is weaving the wisdom and healing of the Akashic Records into both her therapy practices, as well as her akashicrecords.uk.org clarity package. So visit her website for more information. You can always visit mine as well. And today we want to talk about this intersection of Akashic Records and real practical life, like abundant resources. It is what comes, Jenny. It's like there's a tipping point I feel like we've already crossed, where a lot of people know what the Akashic Records are vaguely, even if vaguely, they know they exist. And we are professionals who've been professionals for decades doing different things. Like, I have a very corporate background and got into this a decade ago. You have a very professional psychotherapy background and got into this a few years ago through my program. She's also a graduate of my Akashic Records Immersion program. And the exciting thing is that it's not just woo anymore. We are teaching and bringing and using the high level wisdom, guidance, compassion, energy transformation that happens when we go into the Akashic Records to really help people change their lives and to empower them. So maybe first off, I'd love it if you would like to summarize this process that you've gone through to sort of emerge as a psychotherapist who does both of these things, and like, what is that looking like today as you host sessions that are focused in the records, and how is it changing your client work? Maybe that's a good place for us to start.
So I think it's important to start with the distinction of what I do. So I don't open people's Akashic records in a psychotherapy setting. So there's two separate things happening. I'll work as a psychotherapist, or I'll work as an Akashic reader if that's what people want. And then the middle ground is that I use a prayer nowadays to raise my frequency, matching the frequency with the Akasha. And that's what I'll bring in before a psychotherapy session begins. And that's a product called ARI therapy. So there's sort of three different levels, if you will. But for me, when I access the frequency of the Akasha before a session, um, for me, it's a game changer because it raises the frequency of um, my intuition. I get more intuitive hits for what exactly is happening in the room. So there might be transferential issues happening in the room psychologically between the client and myself. I can identify those sooner, quicker. Um, Also, I sort of get a bird's eye view of what's going on in terms of the client's trauma, maybe psychological patterns, defense mechanisms, what's happening with the conscious mind, with the unconscious processes in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So it basically ups my game in simple terms. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
as it helps bring in a bird's eye view.
Yeah.
But it's not reading someone's records within the prism of psychotherapy. So just to make that clear for
That's beautiful. No, it's really helpful to have that distinction described. Yeah. So what maybe like really kind of brass tacks practical then, what do you what happens? You've been doing this a long time. What happens compared to how it used to be? Like for a person who's sitting on a Zoom or in the room with you, how's their experience changed? And is it really that as much as just your knowing is crystal clear, or how does that all work?
it is that my knowing has more crystalline clarity, but it's also something else. Um, before before I brought in the frequency of the Akasha, um, you could say that I would meet clients at a pretty mental level. We're in the realm of the mental because we're looking at the consciousness. However, then I started to bring in embodied work. And now with the Akasha, really, it helps me meet the clients on a different level. I would call it at a transpersonal level, which may be a term that not many people are familiar with. But
Mhm.
essentially, as well as meeting a client psychologically wherever they are, it's also meeting them in a heart coherence for where they're at. And
Mhm.
so we're working through their clinical issues, but there's also a deeper connection between us. And I would say transpersonal moments, pure soul to soul moments come in. And in that moment, clients can feel seen, heard, sensed. Clients will feel met. And for some clients who come in with maybe PTSD, maybe childhood neglect, maybe childhood sexual abuse, domestic violence, this is very important. It's an important part of their healing. So
Mhm.
it brings in a relational component that I didn't necessarily have before, and it's accentuated the relating and the
Mhm.
relational component. Um, the person's um, the therapy moves from person um, relationship to almost a soul to soul level relationship. And here, reparation, healing can take place.
Mhm.
So from the client's perspective, I'm just a better therapist. I get them more and more
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah.
Also, I seem to be able to find exactly where they're at, not just through the words that they're sharing with me, because of
Mhm.
course, psychotherapy is a lot of what is not said. It's a lot of what's not spoken in the room.
Yeah.
So it just helps broaden my insight on
Mhm.
levels, on deeper levels.
Beautiful. Yeah. 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 And that's all of this really is why I teach it and why you teach it, right? Because like fundamentally, in the most basic way, when we enter the Akashic Records, for anyone not quite familiar with what that is, it's a person's soul history, but it's also a realm where we are able to tap into the viewpoints and the vantages of the other people involved when it's appropriate. Like say you're in therapy with a person going through a complex relationship issue. It's like the most benevolent way to access a higher perspective. I think you said that, an eagle's eye view of what's going on, because we literally get to tap in to the eyes and ears of the beings that operate within the records, and it's for everyone's good, and it only happens when it's appropriate and when that other person's soul has consented. It's very, free will is adamantly honored. But when it's appropriate, we can get access to like what might be going on for the other person. Say it's their child or their spouse or just someone at work or anybody, and help the person in the room see from a different way, which is almost impossible to get in any other way. But what I love is that it's always for the love of all. It's like spirit and the Akashic Records management, if you will, wants everyone to be happy, not just that person. They want everyone to figure out what's the glitch in that relationship, or what's perhaps the best potentiality. And so it's very much going to come out in a session or a reading in the highest way, so that choices can be made and shifts can be made. And I mean, for both of us, we experience the absolute wonder of that every day. That can't I don't know a better way to do it at this point, because of the loving, benevolent frequency and the loving, benevolent view, looking at everyone's best, highest intentions. And that's just something I want to emphasize. Also, where we call this, we're talking about Akashics for real life. It's like that for any kinds of decisions, and because therapy is about asking questions and figuring out why things are going on. So anyway, yeah, do you want to say something else about that?
Just to add to what you're talking about, which is that it's really the accelerant of that the Akasha provides, for me, can be best summed up with the term life lessons. So that bird's eye view, if you can imagine how many people go into psychotherapy, and for some people, they'll stay there for years and years because all they know is the role of victim. All they know is that they've
I know
been.
that role very well. I
Um,
did.
and trauma really can stay with a human being for years and years, for decades and decades. And I'm sure we both know people who have never gotten over certain things. Um, Whereas when you look at trying to help a person psychotherapeutically, but this time from a bird's eye view, from bringing metaphysics into the psychological realm, you start to see that it's really not just this one particular life, it's the soul's evolutionary pathway. And so if I introduce that into the session, suddenly the person can they see their victimhood in a different perspective.
Mhm. Mhm.
Hang on a second. So I was in that abusive relationship. I was in that abusive relationship perhaps to experience it and then to overcome it and then to be able to move on to the next thing, to the next level.
Yeah.
So it's almost like when I sit in a psychotherapy session now, I'm also looking for karmic patterns. I'm
Mhm.
looking for, hang on, what is the patterning of the client that's coming, let's say, with abuse? Uh,
Mhm.
Often I'm finding it's not just a single standalone case. There might
Mhm.
be is by another man later on, or another woman, or people will be financially broke again and again, or they might even earn a lot of money and then lose it again. So
Mhm.
the patterning usually follows the person until they've learned the life lesson, whether that's a
Yeah.
primary or secondary lesson. So if I can help people get to that point quicker, then great. The illness, the poverty, the
Mhm.
lack, or the pure victimhood we can just release it and put it in the past. The lesson
Mhm.
is done. The soul can stop sending more and more um, opportunities for the human to learn. So there's no need because he's learned. That's it. We're done. And that karmic patterning falls away.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Mhm.
The client's perspective might be just that they feel a little lighter, they feel a little better, they're no longer in lack, or they're no longer in victimhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Yeah. And that's, I think that is kind of like, if I could, the way I see it, where regular psychotherapy, and I'm not saying that's wrong at all, but it's more flat. And when you can go in with this perspective, you can go very much deeper, like into the origins of it as well. Like one thing I teach, and one thing that the records allow, is even to go into the origin points of a certain trauma. And you're speaking about the karma about it, and the patterning that has originated from the origin. And sometimes our things are lifetime after lifetime of learning. So the depth that we get to bring people into is essentially so empowering. And then people start to realize how deep they are too. It's also like not just about figuring that stuff out, it's also about empowering them to know they are very multidimensional and very deep. And there's a reason sometimes why they've struggled so mightily, because it's one of the biggest reasons they had uh of biggest learnings that they wanted to master and conquer on in this lifetime too. So it can be so empowering.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, and you can usually tell because a client might have um, a very persistent range of symptomatology. They might have a very, treatment resistant behavior patterns, treatment
Yeah.
resistant health issues, that kind of thing. And so when that happens, I'll with ARI therapy, I'll catch that glitch, if you will. And
Mhm.
at that point, I might say, I think you should have an actual reading. Let's swap out the next psychotherapy session for an Akashic reading. In that,
Right.
I'll ask the beings of their own Akashic record, show me the root cause of this now.
Mhm.
Um, so it deepens the client's comprehension of where this all began. And it might be
Yeah.
120 lifetimes ago, it might be a millennia ago. But
Yeah.
the comprehension helps them come up out of victimhood. And then I'll ask for a clearing and release. And
Mhm.
it's literally like, okay, we're done. And
Yeah.
then we go back into the psychotherapeutic setting and it's a game changer because that layer of patterning or behavior or illness or stuckness, really, um,
Mhm.
or rigidity, that's now softened and is disappearing. It's literally
Yeah.
moving out of the client's field, out of their field of consciousness. Then they go home to their family, and that field of consciousness is shifting and changing because the client's not emanating the same victimhood anymore or
Yeah.
whatever.
Because it's all energy,
Yep.
and it was all energy created by thoughts or actions or trauma, and that energy can shift really magically. Like that's where the magic comes in, where you're clearing these energetic strongholds in people that honestly that there's not really another. I mean, that's the quantum healing. That's actually quantum healing, and that's what we're doing in quantum healing sessions too. So it's so profound. um I want to touch on with our remaining time this idea that I've been shown time and again, and I believe it's why people are drawn to this kind of lineage work and also this kind of mastery. I'll use the word mastery a lot because if you had, like what Jennifer was saying, if you have some kind of kerfuffle, something that's been going on for a millennia in your soul, your soul wants to master it or is a master of it, like say victimhood. And that just, I keep thinking to share that gets to what other things that are known modalities, like like your gene keys and your human design. If you start to understand who you are from that lens, and the mastery you're in too, that's just another way to understand what's going on. Like this work is helping you get at the source of whatever is blocking your highest pathway, your strength, your highest gene key, your shadow and your gene keys, so that you can live in the light. It's really a tool. It's almost like a shoehorn or a crowbar in a way to open to the potentiality in those contexts. I just thought to add that because so many people are familiar with those tools too. But what I want to ask, so for instance, in my path, I have very clearly been on a path of healing cancer and becoming the healed state of breast cancer. And that's been an evolution. It's been a process. It's still a work in progress. And I dare say it's nearing completion. And so I am a representation of having healed that. And psychologically, we were just talking about this before we hopped on. I'm starting to see that as a real thing too. So people who I have worked with who have what would have been diagnosed as conditions can literally change enough so that they're not those diagnosed conditions. And it's because they come into their soul sovereign healed state through this kind of getting to the source of it, clearing the energy, getting wisdom and understanding that makes it easy to choose thoughts that are different, all those kinds of things. But what else would you like to say about that? Because I think we can leave people with that, and it's probably the best one of the best reasons to do this.
Well, and you did start at the top of the session, didn't you, with making this practical for day-to-day life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, what I would say to that is everything is energy. Everything. Every single thought that we have creates an energetic form that spirals out into the universe and that boomerangs back at us. So, what's
Mm-hmm.
the very first thing that happens when someone is told, oh, you're no good? Let's say a neglected child, or you're not worthy of love. Or let's say you're sitting in a doctor's surgery and you're told you have cancer now. Or let's say, you're being told that your child is sick or that your family member is sick, whatever it might be. What's the first thing that happens when we're told these diagnoses and we're told other people's opinions? We had this, so there's evidence of those things. They're real, they're not imaginary. But what happens is that we focus on that. We focus on, oh my God, I've got cancer. Or we focus on, oh, I'm no good. Or he's left me because I'm no good. She's done this because I'm worthless. So we literally create like a prison in our conscious minds. And that um, energetic stamp or footprint becomes bigger, 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 bigger. And of course, then we're actually creating in the field of potentiality, we are actually creating now our own low self-worth or our own physical illness or
Mm-hmm.
our own depression, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Um, and so really, we just have to return into that field of potentiality, and the records can help get us there so that
Yeah.
we literally open that cell door and walk out of it. So we're literally redesigning, reforming our thoughts and living a different life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And where anything is possible. I mean, we are seeing it.
Yes,
We are seeing it as very real that anything is possible. And this is a powerful, powerful, powerful way to attain that.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a few years ago, that might have been, a few decades ago, that might have been woo-woo. But
Right.
today, we've got quantum mechanics, which is now proving the point for us. And I've no doubt that in another 10, 20, 30 years, medicine and science will also change and understand energetics more,
Yeah.
much more.
Yeah. And even understand this part of it. I'm sure eventually this part of the soul's path will be brought in, eventually. And it because it already is with certain doctors
Yeah.
and with
And
people. Yes. Yeah.
that's why we've all come here. It's the age of Aquarius now. We've come here. We want front row
Yeah.
seats because all of our old systems are going to collapse and
Mhm.
change.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
so
and that's happening right in here first.
yeah,
Ah,
yeah,
right.
exactly. Exactly.
Oh
No,
gosh.
no matter what the physical illness and no matter what the psychiatric illness or whatever you've been told is wrong with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Jennifer. Our time is nigh, and there's so much more. So perhaps you'll be generous enough to come again. I think that we could have many other conversations. So we'll leave it open, right? And please, listeners, share comments or questions. We'll follow up with watching the comments, and you can visit and learn or schedule with Jennifer at akashicrecords.org UK. You can also learn more about my immersion program at suzannealexandria.com, and feel free to share also stories of your own empowerment through the records. We'd love any other examples. That would be super fun to see in the comments too. So thank you, Jennifer.